Okay. So titanium buff, burnt umber, and ultramarine violet. And we're going to, I'm using a flat, bright or a flat, whatever you have. I'm going to mix these two together, titanium buff and burnt umber. And let's put the color over. Let's do that with this brush. Now, I'm going to take a bit more of the burnt umber on my brush. Still has to look, it should look light. I mean, it's a brown, it's a light brown. And push your brush down. Take a bit of more brown on my brush and darken a bit. Now I'm going to wait for this to dry because, you know, acrylic dries darker. So I'm not going to be adjusting the color right away. Just let it dry a bit. And that's perfect. Okay. Now let's do the same again. And this time, to give this this area here a bit of texture, I'm using the same colors, a bit more brown. I don't like to go light right away, too light, because I need to build it up. We'll build it up. And with the corner of the brush, I'm just going to dab across. Just dab across, like that.
With the same color?
Same color, just a little bit more brown. Yeah.
All the way through that?
All the way through. You see this brown, dark, or this darker brown is going to be the base for us to highlight over that with some, you know, same colors, titanium buff, but it will give us a really nice texture. Okay, I'm coming in a minute. Let's do that. Doesn't have to look, you know, the only reason I'm dabbing is just I don't want to do this because it will be too flat. This way, we'll get some texture. You might get a flat still, but that's okay. Dab like that. And I'm going to take a bit of more burnt umber on my brush at this point. And right here where it meets the bottom of the step, I'm going to make it a little bit darker. And let's put a couple of dark ones here. Just like that. Just like that. Like this. Okay. So now let's highlight this part before we continue. So because if we highlight this part, we can see the rest. We can figure out what's happening, okay? Because there's a little bit of a kind of a tricky part in here. Not tricky, but we need to look at it carefully. So right here, if you look at the original, you can see there's a part up top here before we get to the riser. It's right there. See that part here? This is what we're going to highlight right now. Only this part. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to highlight this part. And it's over. You might have to go over those little pebbles that we were putting, the dabbing. Go over it a bit.
Is that the next step?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Titanium, same mix of color.
Titanium buff and a bit of burnt umber. And let's put this in. See? So now, are you okay, Bob? Should I come?
No, is this the step?
Yes.
So did I make it too big?
Maybe.
All right, I'll shorten it a little bit at the bottom.
Shorten, yeah. And then what we're going to do, you take. Now, before when I was dabbing with the same brush, which is the bright or flat, and I was using the corner of the brush like this, and which we can still do, but we are going to highlight this color, and I'm going to show you here. So it's meaning I'm using right now, just use titanium buff. Okay, and with the corner of a brush, you can do the same. You just go over. But you see right now, the dabs are bigger, wider. So if you find that when you're dabbing, you're getting a wider, it's too wide, too big, switch to round brush and dab with the round brush then. Whatever you find is easier for you. The reason I'm saying this is that you don't want your dabs to be too overlapping. They will overlap a bit in certain areas, but other areas, see, I'm getting big dabs, big blobs of dabbing, and that will make the surface look flat. So you want to see those kind of, it looks like pebbles, right? And that's the only way, is to keep some dark in between if possible. Some of them you won't be able to keep some dark, but some you will. If you put too much highlight, overlap too much highlight on top of each other, you dab them on top of each other, you will get flat, nothing. You'll get a flat surface. So that's why I'm dabbing and I'm trying to keep in between some darks. Okay. Another thing we're going to do is take same titanium buff, a bit of burnt umber, and with a round brush, I'm just going to go in and give this stone in here a bit of, yeah, a bit of texture actually. Okay, so it doesn't look too flat, or just texture it a bit. And this texture, what I'm using here is, it has a bit of water in it. It's like a glazing. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to take the same with, do the same thing. Don't clean your brush. Just put a bit of ultramarine violet and just put it in, because that ultramarine violet will give it some depth. Perfect. Before I move on, I'm going to stop in a minute. I'm just going to do one more thing and I'll pause. Titanium buff. Little bit of white in your titanium buff. Not too much, just a bit. And that will make this step look much more brighter. And again, same thing, titanium buff, a little bit of white, touch of white in my titanium buff. And come here and with the brown brush or a small brush, just because the more highlights you have, white or highlights, the smaller the brush. Because white really makes everything flat if you're not careful. But this little thing that I'm putting right now, those little dabs, that makes the whole walkway in here, this area, pop. See that line that I have right here, which is burnt umber? If you have a straight line that goes from one point to another, try to cut it a bit. Cut that line a bit. Either put a couple little dabs of paint, dots, anything you want, just cut it. Okay, so I'm going to take titanium buff, burnt umber, and let's do this part. Go down with this. That's good. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of ultramarine violet, keeping the colors I have on my brush just the way they are. I'm just adding a little bit of ultramarine violet, and I'm just going to dab or put a couple here of soft ultramarine violet right there. That makes it look like it's down. So this part is flat up. This right here. And that one is down. And since we're working with the same colors, I'm going to take again titanium buff, put some burnt umber in it. A little bit of burnt umber, more titanium buff. And I'm going to come here and do the next step.
What did you?
Coming, hold on. There. All right. Let's put tiny bit of more burnt umber in here and do this part. Down, down. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do work on this brick underneath. We're going to work on this part and this part, but we'll do them exactly the same. Now, we're going to take titanium buff. No, don't remember this is underneath the steps, so it's dark there. It's recessed, right? So it's in. So it's, oh, you can't even see it the way I'm doing it right now. Okay, let's add a bit of titanium buff. And then let's do this. And then what we will do to make it, to push it back is we will glaze it.
Did you just using titanium buff?
No, it's titanium buff with burnt umber, a bit of burnt umber, touch of ultramarine violet. If this riser is too dark and you can't see the difference, we can highlight the riser after a bit. If you can see it when you put the color, you're good. If you can't, highlight it. We will adjust, just put the shape right now. Don't worry about the value. Don't worry about the light and dark. Just put the shape. If you lose a bit of the if you connect them too much, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to go in with burnt umber in a minute. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take burnt umber, only burnt umber. And with a round brush, I'm just going to go in and just kind of put a bit of separation between the stones. Let's put a bit of, as well, ultramarine violet and the burnt umber. Ah, that's nice. Hold on, I'm coming. Right, let's take a bit of ultramarine violet with burnt umber and just drag this color like with a dry brush or as a more like a glaze over to push it back, to push these little stones back. Otherwise, if we leave them just the way they are, they're going to come forward and they will be at the same level as the riser. And they're just kind of very light touch of brush in here just to push them back. There. Let's take a tiny bit of the three colors together at this point and just kind of give the ground here so we can see the steps. Right. Now, what I need to do is a bit of shadow. I shouldn't be doing it right now. I should wait, actually. But let's see if I can glaze, meaning that I am using a light, a transparent color. Let's see if I can glaze underneath the step right there. Just a bit right there, just to make it look like it's casting a shadow over the brick. Now, when I start working on this pot, which is going to be a terracotta color, I'm going to put terracotta in here, color over these, over a couple of those to connect the colors and some dabs of terracotta in here too. So for now, we're good. One more. Okay, a little bit lighter now. Titanium buff, burnt umber, and let's do this here. Like we did with the top part, we left some of the darks. They look like the plants are casting shadow over this wall. So don't take your highlights all the way to the plants. Keep down here. Keep down here. A little bit of darks. Yeah, that's okay. It's all being recorded. I'll be stopping in 1 minute. Okay, so we stop at this point, and next week we'll continue the rest, and we'll add some more details.